Good morning. I'm not Ed this morning, but I'll take over this for today. My name is Charlotte Broadkern, and I serve on the Board of Trustees here at First Unitarian. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whether you carry joy or sorrow in your heart, you are welcome here. All people of goodwill are warmly invited to join us on the journey of the mind, the heart, and the spirit. If this is your first time with us today, please let the offering basket pass you by. Your presence is gift enough. We hope you will join us for coffee and conversation in the community room after the service. We would love to get to know you and answer any questions you might have. You can also visit the information table next to the exit from the community room. I'm not sure if today is the first or third Sunday. Do we have? It is the first Sunday. Is okay. So the offering today is donated to an organization. Is that true? I just jumped up here. Yes. I don't have a script who this is, so you'll find out about that later, I guess. If you're looking for ways to engage with our community and support the work of our congregation, please visit the opportunities table at the back of the community room after the service. There are a variety of activities that would welcome more helping hands, and we would love to match you with an opportunity that interests you. Please remember to silence your cell phone and other electronic devices. Welcome to worship. And at this time, you can take a moment to greet the people sitting around you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We got a big crowd in here today. Good morning. Let's go ahead and... Wow, very excited crowd today. Good morning, everyone. Let's go ahead and join together and sing our welcome song.
Wend my way through the forest of microphones here. Good morning, First Unitarian.
Good morning.
The reading for this morning's call to worship is Sounds by Mary Austin. There is a sound of going in the tops of the mulberry trees, the sound of a last breath. In the cottonwoods also, and the willow-leafed poplars that a week ago were flame-pointed. A sound as of bent blades clashing rustily. There's a sound of going in the chemise, the sound of a besom sweeping. A sound of unconsidered things scurrying to brief corners of oblivion. But with the spruce trees, it is not so. Nor with the balsam firs by the water borders. A staying sound, as of roots that strain, but loose not from the rock crevices. I will go up to the evergreen pines, to the blue spruces around Eagle Rock, and hearten myself with the sound of the star-built firs.
Good morning, everyone. I am just really thrilled to welcome to our sanctuary once again Sandra Wong, this amazing musician. She informed me on the way here that she brought 7 instruments today, so here we're in for a treat.
Yeah, it was like getting to bring my musical playground. And so this instrument is a nyckelharpa, and it's a Swedish folk instrument. It actually dates back to the 1100s. And one of the ways that we know it dates back that old is that they have found carvings over church doors throughout Europe, especially in Italy, actually, even though it is a Swedish instrument. And there are carvings with the date in the center, and then angels playing the instruments of the time period. And the nyckelharpa is one of them. So we wanted to bring this in for today's service, which is exploring many, many aspects of sound, because this instrument basically operates on resonance. So there's 12 sympathetic strings that are just resonating when I'm playing other strings. So I hope you'll be able to hear that interplay within the instrument. And we're going to play 2 songs. The first is called Long Dance from Solleren, and this melody is likely older than the instrument. It's the oldest folk melody that we have, that we know of in Scandinavia, and it comes from a Viking village called Solleren, and they've actually found, the beautiful gold hilted swords and things, and some of the artifacts that they found in this village have gone on tour around the country, around the world, representative of Viking lore. So the first one is Long Dance from Solleren, and then the second is an instrumental rendition of a song about longing, and so we hope you enjoy.
Good morning. Morning. If you are young or young at heart, I'm going to invite you to come on up here. We're going to do a simulation for today's Time for All Ages about sound. So I need some helpers this morning. Come on up. Also, if you don't consider yourself a child anymore, I'm going to invite you to find your inner child, because it's in there somewhere, and let that come forth. Maybe not into the room, but into yourself. Cool. All right. I'm going to ask you today, see, our theme now for November is generosity. And we're talking today about sound. So I'm going to invite you to be generous with your curiosity this morning. And I need maybe 6 volunteers willing to come up here and help me do a demonstration about sound. Anybody? Is 1. Come on. Well, wait, there's directions. Come on up. You're going to be right here. And then turn around and face the audience. All right, we need 5 more people. You're up next, right here, next to Aaron. Anyone? Right here. Cool. Anybody else? At least 1 more. All right, Drew, you're up. All right, here's what we're going to do. I want you all to stand a little bit spread out. Oh, just a little. That's pretty good. And now I want you to put your arms out to the side, like this, and just have your fingertips touch the person next to you. There you go, you got it. And then Drew, you get this. Cool. And then Aaron, you're going to be over here to start us off. Can you stand like right here and connect there, fingertips, just fingertip to fingertip. Okay, so sound, y'all, travels as vibration and a wave. And we're going to experience sound, and then we're going to see the vibration travel across the front here until it reaches our eardrum. Yeah, cool, right? You get it? All right, so here's how it'll work. When we hear a sound, you're going to start to vibrate your arms, and then when you can feel vibration, you're going to start to vibrate, and then you're going to pass it down until we hit the eardrum. Are we good? All right, I think we are ready. Our sound makers, go. Yay! All right, and then. Pretty good. All right. That was a pretty good one. Now let's be a little bit more demonstrative in our vibration showing. Can we do that? Yeah? Just so this is like the last time we're going to do it. So make it big so everybody at home can see what you're doing. Okay? All right, here we go. There we go. Beautiful. Thank you, everybody. So vibration is one of the ways that we hear sound, and it reaches our eardrum, right? And all throughout our day, everywhere we go, most of us hear noise, sound, voices, things. And there's another way to listen. It's different than just hearing. And I'm going to tell you before I hand the mic that during that last piece of music that you were playing, I allowed myself to sit with my eyes closed and really listen. And then, I don't know if anybody else experienced this, but I could feel it in my feet. Anybody else feel that? Like if your feet were grounded on the floor, from where I was sitting, I could feel the vibrations of the music in my feet and in my toes, which, wow, that was cool. I don't usually experience that. So we're going to try to access that feeling in just a moment.
Yes. So I'm going to just tell you a tiny bit about the instruments, and then sort of what their purpose is. These are Tibetan singing bowls. And then earlier, in the very beginning, I also played this conch, which is carved with Tibetan Buddhist practice symbols. And throughout time, humans have used music and sound to really connect with the ancestors, with a sense of spirituality, with the unseen. I don't know all the science of it, but I certainly know that I experience that when I'm working with these instruments. It allows me to drop into my own body and into my heart and into what I experience as spiritual connection with the universe. And so I'm going to just play this for you, and then we'll come back to the bowls. But they actually play this as an offering, as a sound offering to the ancestors and the unseen. And so I'll let you hear that. And while I was doing that, it occurs to me that perhaps it moves us beyond our minds and our egos, and it just kind of cuts to the core. And it's similar to the shofar, when we play the shofar in Jewish services, and any culture around the world, you'll find instruments that resonate in our sound. Okay, are we taking questions? Do we have a question? Oh, okay.
There was somebody in the front who was just sharing that they could feel that vibration that we were talking about. Anybody else out there? Could you feel it?
So I think we're gonna take a moment and play the bowls in silence and just let you guys feel it. And then after that, we're gonna play them one more time and just invite you to tone, which is like just make sound and allow it to actually just connect wherever you want to, drop into your body and just let your voice come out and resonate with the bowls. So the first one will be silent, we'll stop, and then maybe someone can lead the toning when we do that. And I have to find my striker, okay?
I'm going to also invite you, if you want to, for the silent part, if you want to close your eyes so you can hear, and then listen for when the sound is gone. That moment when you can't hear it anymore, and if you want to participate in this, you can raise your hand when you can't hear the sound anymore. Yeah.
Do you want to tone with us? Okay. So, let's tone.
Let's all take a deep breath in and let it go. And you can be generous with your curiosity today. Please join me in singing our children out to their programming, where we're going to continue to play with sound and vibration. Thank you.
My name is Molly Prince, and I'm on the Giving in Action Committee here at First Unitarian. On the first and third Sunday of the month, we give the collection plate to groups doing good work in our community. I am so pleased that today we are supporting the important work of 350 Colorado. I invite you to donate to the basket that will be coming around or online. Barbara Donakay is here from 350 Colorado to tell you more.
Thank you. Is my sound okay? Okay. Thanks for letting me be here. My name is Barbara Donakay. I'm a mother and grandmother, and I've lived in Denver for close to 50 years now. And I've been to this church many, many times for different events, mostly. I'm on the board. I serve as a co-chair of the board of 350 Colorado. And the name 350 comes from the number of parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, parts per million in the atmosphere that we've been accustomed to for most of recorded history. And that number right now has gone up to 419 parts per million. And as maybe you know, it's still going up. So we call it a climate crisis and not climate change now. So this is the 10th anniversary of 350 Colorado. The mission is to work locally to help build the global grassroots movement to solve the climate crisis and transition to a sustainable future. We're one of the largest, we are the largest singly focused climate change organization and grassroots organization in the state. We just work on climate change. We have 4 pillars. And one of those is keeping fossil fuels in the ground. As we know, Colorado is a major producer of oil and gas. And since the 181 was passed, the legislation calling for prioritizing public health and environment and safety over oil and gas interests, the Oil and Gas Commission has issued over 5,000 hydraulic fracturing permits. And they denied one. We work for environmental justice. Suncor Refinery in Commerce City continues to process tar sand oil from Canada, and it continues to be one of the communities in the country that's the most impacted by toxic emissions from the plant and also from other sources like highways. Another one of our goals is getting money out of fossil fuels. We have divestment campaigns, and one of our main divestment campaigns is around Public Employees Retirement Association, PARA, to get them to divest their money from investments in oil and gas. And promoting solutions, so that means supporting renewable energy, supporting regenerative agricultural projects, and also more recently it's come to mean a just transition for oil and gas workers so people can have a place to go and work to do. And our last pillar is building a strong movement, and that's where everybody comes in to it, building a strong movement. And as a group, we lobby legislators, we attend hearings, agency hearings, we write letters to the editor, we write op-eds, we do petitions, we show up on the streets, we show up at the Capitol, and we always invite people to just to be there and show up. And I just wanted to mention, my own involvement started in 2010 when I went to Bolivia on a public health project, and I saw the glaciers melting on the Andes. And not long after I came back, I saw Jim Balog's movie Chasing Ice, which reinforced that knowledge. And in that film, he said, I want to be able to tell my children that I tried. And for me, being an active volunteer and supporting 350 Colorado is one of the best ways that I have found to do that and to express my generosity. So thank you for listening, and we appreciate donations, but we also appreciate your time and other kinds of support. And I will be here after the service. And if you want more information, I can give you more information. And I have sign-up sheets. And this is, yeah, we all know this. I mean, this is for our future. This is for our kids, and we're doing our best. Thank you.
Well, I was just commenting to Leah that it's not every day that I play a singing bowl and didgeridoo and then go to play like classical repertoire. So my hands are going, what are you doing to me? But we're going to play an excerpt from The Lark Ascending, written by Ralph Vaughan Williams. And he wrote this really in as an expression of his love for nature, and also what he was seeing in terms of the difficulty in our relationship with nature. It's there's a poem called Lark Ascending that inspired this, and he was called off to war, and he was so disturbed and so by what he saw when he was at war, that he came back and he reworked this into an orchestral arrangement that gave it even more depth, and so it feels very apropos for where we are in our world right now.
Can I just observe, we are a congregation that is frequently blessed by some amazing music, and just thanks to our wonderful musicians. Your gifts this morning, freely given, are gratefully received. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for your generosity to support the work of 350 Colorado. Thank you. Whoops. I'll get it later. A couple of joys and concerns of our larger community I want to share at this time. I want to give huge thanks to Kate Jones and all the people who helped make Family Promise happen this past week. Thanks to the property management team and to Rhonda Williamson for getting the carpets cleaned, and to all the people who showed up to help move all the chairs back in here. Thank you, thank you. I need to let you know that Mary Werner passed away this past week. Mary and Bob Werner joined this congregation in 1958, 65 years ago. Bob, they both served on many committees and task forces over the years. Bob was president of the congregation twice, not just once. Anyway, their memory is a blessing and their lives a fine and lasting legacy for us all. May they rest in peace. I want to hold up and stand with and offer blessings to all the people right this minute as we gather here in Denver, who are hunkering down in basements and tunnels and apartments and shelters, hoping not to get blown up by a bomb or shot by a soldier or lose any more of their friends or family or community members to violence and war that they never asked for, don't want any part of, and certainly do not deserve. May they survive. May they be comforted and fed. May they be housed in safety and in calm. May they live their lives in joy and self-determination. May the world have sanity and mercy. So for our prayer today, in this service that is celebrating and exploring sound and hearing and listening, I thought I would share with you 5 things that I think everybody needs to hear now and then. And I'm going to dedicate this to my beloved spouse, Tammy, who turns 60 tomorrow. And this is not necessarily written to her, but it's more written kind of in her voice for the kind of what I believe is just sort of the energy and the presence that she brings to the world and to the people who know and love her. So this is dedicated to Tammy, her voice. 5 things. You are doing a great job. 5 things everyone needs to hear now and then. You're doing a great job. You are balancing work and finances and relationships and aging and a ton of stuff no one can even see. Thank you for your efforts to stay present in all of these things. You're doing a great job. You deserve to be happy. Happy! You are not your mistakes. You are not your failures. You are so much bigger than that. There are good people who love you. The balance of your life is unquestionably positive. So much of what you feel is just old tapes taught to you when you didn't know any better. Friends, you know better now. You deserve to be happy. Your life is sacred and worthy. All of it. Even if it doesn't feel that way all the time, even if it never feels that way, even still, like the people you care about, like the efforts you support, like the mendicant, the Samaritan, the poor, the oppressed, the teacher, the healer, like everyone who has ever inhabited a body, like everyone who has worked and loved and lost and suffered and sometimes known great joy, you belong here. Your life is sacred and worthy. And your loving is a miracle. Your loving is a miracle. Given all that you've been through, given all the ups and downs, the achievements and the setbacks, the self-doubts that have plagued you, the second guessing you have done with your feelings, your decisions, your relationships, given all of that, it's astonishing you are still able to freely give of your heart, your time, your care, your concern to others. Your loving is a miracle. Never doubt that. And lastly, at least for now, I like you. I like you. You are a likable human being. You are smart and funny and caring. You've been through a lot and you've gotten up and kept going every damn time someone or something or some situation or some dark thought has tried to keep you down. The world is a better place because you're in it, and I'm glad you're in my life. I like you. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. That was awesome. This is Mirror in Mirror, and I would just like to dedicate this to us finding our common humanity. We are all mirrors of one another, and so in that light.
I was just going to invite you to stand and stretch for a second if you wanted to, but a lot of you did already. But if you'd like to stand and stretch for a second, please do so. We are running a little long today for obvious and wonderful reasons, and I'm going to do the whole sermon. So. See if I can pull this one off here. Sound is older than Earth, older than the solar system, older than galaxies, older than atoms, which are really, really old. In the early moments of the expanding universe, 13 some odd billion years ago, waves of energy pulsed through the hot plasma of protons and electrons, though there were no creatures to hear it. Long before there was life on Earth, molecules of matter vibrated in innumerable frequencies in response to X-rays, gamma rays, light rays, infrared rays, and mechanical waves generated by the impact of atom on atom, molecule on molecule, asteroids, tumbling rocks, volcanic eruptions, later by falling rain, thunder, waves on stone, and wind in an unbreathable atmosphere. There are sounds that can transport us to a time and place that precedes life itself. And it's worthwhile, and maybe it's wisdom, to know that we are newcomers here, right? We are fleeting wisps of semi-conscious protoplasm briefly listening in on a cosmic cacophony, acting for all the world as if we know what the heck's going on. I've been moved to explore sound with you today, primarily because I stumbled upon the work of David Haskell a few months ago. David Haskell has written several books, hosted a podcast, and created spoken essays about sound, the richness of sound and the history of sound. And I have been, I readily confess, so captivated by his work that I wanted to share some of what I've learned with you. Hearing, I didn't know this, was the last of all our five senses to evolve. The last one. For 9/10 of the time life has been present on Earth, there have been no ears of any kind to hear it. Even paramecium, tiny single-celled creatures that are older than all mammals and humanity and such, even paramecium that live in swamps and puddles and slow-moving streams, have a sensor to tell them if it's light or dark, have organelles that accept or reject the taste of food, can feel the physical boundaries of their surroundings, have a rudimentary watery sense of smell, and tiny little hairs that allow it to move towards its desires and away from danger. And they are deaf as a stone. And the same is true for mollusks, starfish, octopi, jellyfish, worms of every conceivable shape and size, tens of thousands of other creatures in the water and on land. Evolutionarily, the first creatures that could sort of hear, that had rudimentary organs for making meaning out of sonic vibrations, were primitive fish. And the ones of those primitive fish that managed to make the transition onto land, those are our ancient ancestors. Your ears are biologically and evolutionarily modified fish gills. And just like fish, are still mechanically attached to your jaws. Evolutionary convergence is a wonderful phrase that refers to similar organs or structures or behaviors evolving separately in different times and places. For instance, the fact that insects, birds, bats, and even some fish all have wings is a classic example of evolutionary convergence. These evolved separately, similarly, in wildly different contexts. It turns out the ability to hear has evolved over 20 different times in different evolutionary lineages over the past 450 million years. In the insect world, hearing is bogglingly diverse. Mosquitoes and fruit flies have ears on their antennas. Crickets and grasshoppers on their front legs. Lacewings have them on their wings. Cicadas and locusts on their abdomens. Moths and butterflies can have them almost anywhere, including on their mouth parts. Some parasitic flies have what passes for ears on what passes for their necks. The bladder grasshopper has 6 pairs of ears along the sides of its body. The praying mantis has just 1 ear, smack in the middle of its chest. Insects are diverse not only in how they hear, but in what they hear, adaptive to their environment and situation. Mosquito ears, diminutive as they may be, are astonishingly sensitive, but they can only hear for about 3 feet. There are grasshoppers that can hear sounds from over a mile away. Crickets detect low frequencies. Mantis and moth ears are tuned to ultrasound. They can hear the echolocation frequencies of the bats that are trying to hunt them. Despite all that diversity, most insects can't hear at all. Of the 30 classifications of insects on planet Earth, only 9 of them have subspecies that can hear. Beetles, ants, centipedes, cockroaches, most spiders too, have no receptors for sonic sound. Though it does kind of depend on how you define what hearing is. Ants, centipedes, and roaches don't have ears, but they do sense and respond to vibrations in the ground. Or and some spiders, through tiny hairs on their legs, can detect the slightest breeze moving through filaments of web they have spun several feet away from them. Is that hearing? If so, web-spinning spiders have the largest ears in the universe relative to their size. Hearing is pretty old, but the ability to communicate through sound, creature to creature, is relatively new. The earliest fossil record of a creature that could generate its own sound purposefully was an ancestor of katydids about 275 million years ago. On one of its wings, it has a series of little ridges, and on the other wing, it has a little sort of a plectrum that could rub against each other and make a sort of a chirping sound. At least in theory is what we think of. We can cross-reference it to modern crickets and things like that, but that's what the fossil record shows. This fossil, That fossil, particularly of that katydid and others of its time, had tiny hollow spots on their front legs, exactly of the shape and size to detect the vibration that rubbing wings would generate from other katydids. So as far as we know, and this could all change, right? New fossils or whatever could be discovered. But as far as we know, this was the beginning of sound communication between living creatures. Katydids chirping in search of a mate. About another 30 million years later, dinosaurs picked up the skill of making noises and communicating through sound in various ways, but it would still be another 45 million years before mammals began to squeak and growl and mew and bark and howl of their own accord. And two things I think are really worth bringing up in this brief history of sound. Mammals began to make more sophisticated sounds about 200 million years ago. And that is about exactly the same time that mammals began lactating and nursing their young. Isn't that interesting? People who study this stuff believe it was precisely the evolution of sucking muscles in the throat of ancient mammals that allowed the evolution of more complex throat structures that eventually became known as what we think of as a larynx. Isn't that interesting? Mammal communication, growls, howls, mews, squeaks, voices, cries, are all an evolutionary gift of ancient mothers. The women here are not surprised. Another major event in the history of sound is the appearance of flowering plants, technically called angiosperms. That was about 100 to 125 million years ago. Flowering plants were an extraordinary evolutionary leap on planet Earth. They formed underground links with nitrogen-fixing bacteria and essentially pumped fertilizer into the soil, which in turn allowed ecosystems to become much larger and more diverse. Through their flowers and fruit, flowering plants began to co-evolve with insects in this symbiotic kind of relationship with beetles and moths and katydids and flies. And if you look at the timeline of evolutionary diversity, diversity just explodes about this time that flowering plants come on the scene. They explode with diversity, yes, in this kind of a reciprocal interaction. The diversity of flowering plants, the diversification of flowering plants led to the diversification of insects, led to the diversification of birds, led to the diversification of mammals, led to literally tens of thousands of different ways to make sound. So it's not an exaggeration to say that this very relatively recent, astonishing diversity of sound on planet Earth dates to the time, and we owe all of that sonic evolution to plants, which makes no sound of their own. So like in the exercise that Sandra and Aaron and the children did earlier, to show how sound moves through the air, molecule to molecule, was accurate, but of course vastly oversimplified. Imagine this room with a full orchestra in it, where there's not one sound or a couple of sounds from a couple of bowls, but dozens of complex instruments, each one exquisite, each one making fluctuating sounds, all ringing at the same time, each tone from each instrument a composite of other tones, and rhythms and harmonies and counterpoint. In his book, Music, the Brain, and Ecstasy, which Leah loaned me earlier, Robert Jourdain wrote, "As a chorus of brasses fills the air, a trumpet blasts out many frequencies of sound at once, each a component of the overall sound. Every air molecule is battered at every frequency so that it is nudged back and forth against the next molecule in an incomprehensibly complex pattern. This pattern of pushes and pulls is conveyed from molecule to molecule right up to your waiting eardrum, setting them vibrating in the same way. A trombone blazes besides a trumpet, and the composite pattern, its many vibrations, are incorporated into the motions of the same molecules that the trumpet has just excited. Indeed, every air molecule in the concert hall sums every vibration from every instrument into one frenzied dance. Think of what a remarkable device it would be to watch that dance and infer from it every single one of the original vibrations. And yet that is what your ear does all the time. That's remarkable. Your ears, my ears, are like miracles in what they can do. And I love this word I learned. It's called mechanotransduction. That's what happens when the tiny little cilia inside your eardrum vibrate and create an electrical impulse from that vibration that goes into your brain, where it's then deciphered to create what you think of as sound. Mechanotransduction. Your ears are miracles in the information that they bring to you through your ears, and that sound can bring resonance, like it did just a little while ago, to every single cell of your body. One of the things I've been learning is how sounds, sonic vibrations, are a kind of a gateway to being more aware, to being more present in the world, in the moment, sort of a bridge between what we normally think of as the living world and what we normally think of as the non-living sort of physicality of the world. To quote David Haskell, when we hear the songs of birds that live in forests, particularly dense forests, they tend to be slow, whistled melodies, because that's the kind of sound that transmits well through that habitat. You go to the prairie and you hear lots of rapid trills and ups and downs in the frequency suite, because that's the sound that works well there. You go to the ocean shore and you hear the cries of gulls and oyster catchers that carry over the tumult of the surf. And so the physicality, the materiality of the world has woven itself into the sonic diversity of the creatures that live within that world, and through this process of evolutionary adaptation. This applies below the waves as well, right? Fish and whales are making sounds that transmit well over the right kinds of distances for the ecology of their own species. And this applies to human voices. Our voices are a product of forest-dwelling creatures that only recently came down onto the savanna. And so we are hearing in our own voices the primate ecology of the world, of our world. one of the points that I hope is bubbling up through all of this stuff is that the vast diversity of sound, which we mostly take for granted, is a powerful, demonstrative, accessible evidence of our kinship with everything else, everywhere. Everything on the planet. It all evolved together in relationship, in a system, interwoven, inextricable, a beautiful, even poetic, in my opinion, example of the unity that makes us one. Amen? So listening is fun and informative. And I'm going to share with you a couple exercises for playful listening. Listening to become more aware, more connected, more alive, more present in the miraculous world. And I have stolen these from David Haskell in an essay he wrote for Emergence magazine. And I'm going to read these, but I've actually made printed copies, so you don't have to try and remember it or write any of this down. They'll be outside in the community room when you leave. 1, at pre-selected intervals, like time them, say 4 o'clock today or whatever, 6 o'clock tomorrow. At pre-selected intervals, stop for a few moments and just pour your attention into your ears. Send your sensory awareness out into the world and just see what's there. Or maybe sees the wrong metaphor for that particular exercise. Sense what's there. If possible, include the very early and the very late hours of the day when traffic and human industrial noises are less prominent. I love this phrase, forage for sound with your ears. Forage for sound with your ears. Let your hearing roam, and when a sound arrives, don't cling to it. Right? Just notice its form, its shape if it has one, its nuances, and then listen beyond that for the next sound. What can you hear when you really listen that you never noticed before? Second exercise in playful listening. For billions of years, the voice of the earth was wind and water and stone, volcanic eruptions, asteroid collisions, crashing. Seek out places where human noises are muted, where you can hear water flowing and wind blowing and rain falling and leaves rustling. And close your eyes, and in that moment, know that you are sonically connected to deep time. Right? To a time before there were ears to hear anything. Those sounds you're hearing in those moments were here. Third one. Make a little time to just focus on vibrations. Rest your fingertips on the branch of a tree, maybe in the wind, or on the walls of your house when the heat is running. Better yet, lay on the floor and feel the vibrations through the floor as they move through your body as well. Notice the ground beneath your feet as you stand out here on Colfax Avenue and a truck goes by. Gently feel your own throat as you hum, or speak, or sing, or just play with vowels and consonants. Lean your body up against a speaker that's playing music, or maybe touch an instrument as it's playing. I hadn't planned to share this, but I'll share. I've shared this before. One of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, one of my most treasured memories, was when my sister got married. She got married in a beautiful Red Rock Canyon down in Arizona, and the brother of my brother-in-law had, I think he had 4 children, but one of them at that time was this little girl. She was 5 and she was deaf. She'd been born that way. So I had heard about her, but I had not met her. And one of my jobs at this wedding after the ceremony was to just sort of play guitar in the background while people were visiting and eating and stuff like that. So I'm sitting on the picnic table in this beautiful canyon playing this guitar, and there's children playing and people visiting and good food and all that. And I just happened to notice there's this one little girl who's just looking at me from about 30, 40 feet away. She just got this puzzled look on her face. And I didn't think anything of it, but I noticed her again. And, I waved her over, and she took a step closer, kind of hesitant, but still just looking at me, just puzzled. And she gets just a couple feet away from me, and it dawns on me, this is the deaf girl. So, okay. So I take her hand, and I place it on the body of the guitar, and I strum a few chords, and her face just lit up. It was one of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen, just complete understanding in that little moment. I'll never forget that. And the fourth and last exercise I want to share with you is to just pick a sound. Maybe your favorite sound, any sound. And then follow that sound in terms of the energy that created the vibrations. And where did that energy come from? And where did that energy come from? And where did that energy come from? So, for instance, like birdsong is powered by seeds and millet and insects and fruit and dead animals and so on. And all of those were powered by the growth of plants and trees and fungi and so on. And all of those were powered by water and soil and sunlight. The same for human voices, yours and mine, gasoline engines, jet planes, even exquisitely played violins. In terms of the chemistry and the physics, all of them, all of it, are transmutations of energy and light. We've just scratched the surface of sound. Just scratched the surface. I'm going to close this exploration with another quote from David Haskell. He wrote, "One of the consequences of climate change is a loss of acoustic diversity. We need to teach ourselves that our senses are essential, not just for the thriving of life, but for us to be good neighbors and kin. If we are not listening, how can we possibly expect to be a good neighbor to brother and sister wolf, to the whales in the ocean, to the birds in the forest? If we are not paying attention to our own senses, we have disengaged from the primary mode in which every creature since the origin of life has connected to its environment. If we are not listening, we will have no stories to tell the future." Amen.
So in the spirit of playfulness and sensing our own vibration, I invite you to rise in body or spirit. We're going to do some singing together, led by Charlotte, Rachel, and Sandra.
This one's shortest. I'll go with that one. Oh, yeah. So we're going to do a circle song. So we're going to give you each a section, interlocking parts, and just have fun. And we're going to keep this on the shorter side because in our scratch of the surface of Sonic, the Sonic world, we've gone epically long. So I'm going to give everybody a part. And Charlotte's going to lead this group. Remind me, Rachel is going to lead this group, and I'll lead this group. And yeah, Let's see. Yum, bedo, 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 yum, Nicely done, everyone. We could go for a long time with that, but we'll keep it short. Behind all our differences and beneath our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one, binds us forever together throughout all time, through life and death, and the space between the stars, throughout all time, life and death, and the space between the stars.
Be noble, for you come from the stars. Be humble, for you are made of the earth. And be kind, for you belong to each other. Amen.